welcome the man who scored 6 goals in 4 games this season, scored 4 games in a row, and hopefully he's going to do it again this Saturday. It's Daniel Hughes. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, how's it going?
Thank you. How's it going?
So he's very relaxed, which is what we like to see.
I think he got the short end though, because the last time we did podcasts it was just audio. So he agreed to this and then came up and saw the lights.
You didn't tell me about this.
Yeah, we'll have to have a confession to make. When I casually texted this man on Saturday night, I sort of knew he was out with his good lady and having. I think you think you're maybe having a wee meal and maybe a beer. So he was very enthusiastic about coming on. So I just had to confirm with him today that he was still coming on. But I never divulged it was going to be cameras. But like, you know, some people have a face for radio, and we'll not mention any names. For Brennan.
Me and Gareth.
But yeah, this is very much a test run, so we're very thankful that you've come on the first one of the new season, and we thought there was no better man to start off than, you know, you've obviously had a brilliant start to the season. I mean, looking obviously when you come back to the club, it's your hometown club, you've been here before, you know everybody, you know, be it players, supporters, manager and everything. Did you expect sort of, I know it's only been 3 games, so four games you count the League Cup, did you expect to sort of start off so well in terms of, from a personal perspective? Go on, say yes.
Well, obviously I wanted to, but after a couple of weeks pre-season, I sort of expected to, because I was back enjoying it again. I wasn't enjoying football the last 18 months. Part of the reason why I come back, stayed local, back to Newry, after 6 weeks pre-season. We hit the ground running and I sort of knew it then. Main thing was enjoying football again, and especially with the players that's here, makes it easier. You know, they're all local lads, most of them, and I know them all outside of football too. So, is there a lot to be said? I mean, at any level of football, be it, you know, you're getting paid $500,000 a week, you know, playing in La Liga or the Premiership, and, you know, playing in the Championship or playing Irish League football, that a player is comfortable. Does that, how big an impact does that have to translate onto the pitch in terms of how you play on the pitch, being comfortable at the club? Don't get me wrong, you have to go out of your comfort zone too to achieve things. If you stay in your comfort zone all the time, you're not really going to progress much. Must be about 8 or 9 years ago now, maybe 8 years ago, I left Warrenpoint to go to Cliftonville. Going to a big club, that was out of my comfort zone, but I enjoyed every minute at Cliftonville. Then I was Dungannon. I enjoyed Dungannon as well, but just maybe the last 18 months, I think maybe the whole thing with the COVID and the way things were, stop start, and the way you had to train and travelling up and down the road, I just think I sort of lost interest. No, I wouldn't say interest, but sort of lost a love for it. Like, you know, I was a wee bit like, I couldn't be annoyed going to training, and normally I'd be busting to get the training. So I made the decision that I was going to come back closer to home, so it was Warrenpoint or Newry, and I spoke to Darren, just a brief chat, and sort of made my mind up after a couple of days after speaking to him, and then that was it, give him my word and saying. So being back local, yeah, it makes a big difference. You know, you're coming in from work and you have a wee bit of time to yourself, and then you go to training instead of coming in from work straight out the door, not home to maybe 10:30, 11 at night, you know. So put all them together, it probably makes you comfortable.
Sure, it takes a wee bit of pressure off as well, just in the whole family life side of things. You have that wee bit more time at home. Especially
now having a wee girl, more time with her too. But I'd say all them things together do make you a wee bit more comfortable, and then if you are more comfortable, obviously you're going to enjoy it more, and as shown in performances on the pitch. Yeah,
because you've hit the ground running, as Gareth says there. You scored 4 games in a row now, but as a striker at any level, scoring goals is important. But how great was it for you to get that first goal in your first game? Is that important? Does that give you the momentum?
Yeah, it is. Dungannon, the last season there, I wasn't scoring. Obviously, if you're not scoring, you're not enjoying it. And if you're not enjoying it, which I wasn't, then other things are in your head. Why is this not happening? Why is that not happening? So to get the first goal in the first game, that sort of settles all them thoughts of, can I score still, or can I do this again? So they go on a wee run then, so then you just target the next game, and if I play Saturday, don't score Saturday, I'll be disappointed. I'm looking to score the next game, so it's the way you take it.
And see, once you start scoring, how natural does that come back to you? Once you start getting goals, like, is it, like, you hear all the cliches of the day on Match of the Day, but is it literally like, if you're not scoring goals, it affects everything?
Pretty much, yeah. Well, people say a goal scorer doesn't forget how to score, but my record last season would say something different about that. But yeah, once you're in a run of form and you're hitting the back of the net, you don't think about it. Like, it just comes natural, and most of the time you don't even think about where you're putting the ball. It just comes natural. So for a goal scorer to score early on in the season and maybe a couple of good performances, that's a big help. Like.
I suppose the only downside is having to listen to your brother all the time.
Like, in one ear out the other. Don't really listen to him, he's talking, but I don't listen that much.
In terms of just, you know, say about like supporters, sort of how their team does on a Saturday sort of affects their weekend. From a player's perspective, and particularly, you know, a local player who has an affinity with the club, does it affect you? I'm sure it obviously affects you if you have a negative result. You haven't had one yet in your second spell, so we'll not even think about that. But in terms of, from a personal perspective, if you don't score or if you've missed a chance, does it? I know you said there you focus on the next game, right, and you want to make up for it or whatever. But does it bug you? Like, do you go home and does Catherine going like, you know, for fuck's sake, you do my head in?
She knows if she doesn't see the result, it's not just because it's your local club. Even at Dungannon and Cliftonville, like, if she didn't see the result on a Saturday, and she would know straight away how, even if I won or if I played bad, like, she would know the form I'm in. Like, she wouldn't speak to me maybe at 9 o'clock at night. Like, it does annoy you. Saying about missing chances and that, yeah, it probably would, but it wouldn't annoy you as much as getting beat. Like, everyone misses chances and whatever, but yeah, getting beat on Saturday, it does your head in up to a certain point, but you can't let it ruin your whole weekend. Like.
In terms of, I mean, looking, you touched on there, obviously leaving Moran Point was about 8 years ago, and you had that trial with Bolton Wanderers under when Neil Lennon was there and Emil Heskey was there. I remember speaking to you when you're over there for the paper, and I think you said all the players were walking in with their Louis Vuitton wash bags. You were coming in with your links.
No, it wasn't like it wasn't links. It was a Christmas special. I think my granny maybe got me. It was a wee Gillette wash bag. That's all you took with you was your boots and your wash bag. Everything else was there for you. So I walked in with a Gillette bag and. Johnson and Heskey, everybody's walked in with this Louis Vuitton bag, maybe worth a couple of grand, like mine worth about £5. Tell you what, I didn't take it back on the Tuesday. No way.
Well, in terms of that sort of experience, your stock was very high at the time, and you know, by all reports, you did well over there and you enjoyed it over there, and it was a great experience, if nothing else. I mean, when the time comes to go to Cliftonville, and it was a big move at the time, I don't want to say it didn't work out for you, but you know, it didn't maybe go as well as you would have hoped. Would that be fair to say?
I'd agree. Yeah, I would agree with that. I wouldn't say it didn't work out for me. I think everything happens for a reason. Like, of course, I would have wanted it to go better. I went to Cliftonville, and I think the second training session I rolled my ankle, so I put me out for 4 weeks straight away. Yeah. But I come back from that, and I get into the team. I was playing well. I was scoring. I know a lot of Cliftonville fans appreciated me when I played there, because as I do, I would give 100% every week. One thing, I think Rory Donnelly came back. Sorry, Jared Little left then. He went to Sligo, and I was getting plenty of game time under him. Then Barry Gray took over. Rory Donnelly came back. Joe Gormley was back. There was a couple of big earners there too. So. Again, I wanted to stay and try and fight for my place, but after a while I sort of thought that it didn't really matter what happened. What I done, I wasn't going to get my place that sort of way, so made the decision. I spoke with Barry, and I thought the best thing for me to do was move on to play, because everybody wants to play football. So yeah, I would agree it didn't go as high I wish I would have went, but that's football.
I'm sure that's a tough decision to make as well, because you know, you get yourself to one of the Belfast teams. Presumably that's where the money is in the country. You know, it gives you a big opportunity of playing European football, potentially, and then to have to step away from that must have been tough enough. Was it to decide to go to Dungannon?
It wasn't really, because Rodney McAree was manager of Dungannon, and everybody spoke to, you know, couldn't have spoke any more highly of him. And I know from playing against Dungannon the way they played, you know, they just total football, and I thought that would have suited me. Going to a big club like Cliftonville, and then leaving, no disrespect to Dungannon, but a smaller club.
Like a regional club, like
I went to Dungannon, and under Rod, I was flying, scoring goals, enjoying his training sessions were brilliant. Playing on a Saturday, the way we played were brilliant, enjoying it again. I think Rod was there maybe 8 months, and then he left, went to Coleraine. Andy Coleman, he was there, he left, and that's who I was going up and down the road with. So maybe after 6 months, I was up travelling up and down on my own then, but I didn't mind that. Chris Lindsay came in, enjoyed it for the first maybe 6 months. Picked up actually picked up a serious injury whenever he came in, done my ankle bad. Travelling up and down the road then on my own just for physio, not training, and you know, sort of snowball effect. One thing was happening after the other, and then the COVID thing hit, and so.
And of course you did us a massive favour down here one night in the Dungannon shirt when you missed a penalty in this goal right here.
Yeah. And Andy Coleman was nuts. He
Coleman's
just
here.
left.
He literally just joined us.
Believe it or not, 2 weeks before that I was practicing penalties against Andy, and I must have had about 15 of them, so I knew rightly where I went. And then the same night Stephen went and scored 2 penalties.
That's right, yeah.
And after he scored his first one, he ran past me and says, "That's how you hit them, Daniel," on the pitch. So
what's that like playing against your two brothers though? Was that is there any rivalry or?
Yeah, well before it, like the build up before it's good crack, but a slagging and banter, like during you don't really think about it, like you just, you know.
I think I would kick lumps out of our fella, like
yeah.
Genuinely, I think we would kick lumps out of each other.
I think Stephen tried to kick lumps out of me, but his legs were gone, he couldn't catch me.
I mean, looking just on and sort of when we're talking about your career before you come back, sort of come round full circle, and you know, before you come on, we were discussing about how when you were leaving Warren Point, or you know what there was a move sort of, you know, in the offing. Linfield, both Linfield and Dundalk were in for you at the time, because you know you were, I would say, we were seriously hot commodity, and you were one of the top strikers in the league. And I remember having a talk at the end of the season, and you were sort of debating. You knew you had offers on the table from sort of both of them. I mean, do you, obviously for whatever reason, it's none of our business, you know, they didn't come off. But do you look at and think your career? I mean, it obviously would have taken a different turn if you'd have gone to either one of those. I mean, do you look back, and I'm not saying do you look back with regret, but do you think about sort of I've gone this direction, I could have gone that direction?
Definitely. I actually, it was Warren Feeney. Warren Feeney was the manager of Linfield, and believe it or not, I agreed with him to sign for Linfield, and I'd made my mind up. So I rang Barry Gray and told him, "Look, Barry, I've made my mind up, I'm signing for Linfield." And Barry says, "Well, you can't." And I says, "What do you mean I can't?" He says, "Are you in the house? I'll call up and see you." He called up and told me, and that's when he told me I was going to Bolton the following week. So I couldn't have signed for Linfield then, me going to Bolton the following week. So that sort of put it on the back burner. I went to Bolton, and then I was back to Bolton then after January. So I was still at Warren Point then. Obviously that didn't work out. Didn't work out, and I come back at the end. No, it was January actually. I think it was January I signed for Cliftonville. So I had agreed with to go to Linfield, and the Bolton thing put me off signing with them. I met Stephen Kenny, or Dundalk too, thinking about that as well. 2 big clubs. And then actually while I was in Bolton, Stephen Kenny was on the phone to me too, asking how it was going and stuff like that, and seeing where my head was at, if I was coming back I was going to sign. So at the end I ended up signing for Cliftonville. But yeah, if I had a sign for Linfield, things could have went up or down, same as Dundalk. You know, I'll never know because it never happened, but everything happens for a reason, you know. So
yeah. So I mean, you know, it'd be nice. I mean, it goes without saying, it'd be nice that come the end of this season, in terms of Newry, to be getting promotion up to the Premiership with this squad, which is, I think, you know, everybody is probably in agreement that it's a squad capable of competing in the Premiership. It's certainly a squad capable of getting out of the Championship. But I mean, how nice would it be to go up? And I don't want to say, probably all my questions have been sounding very negative, but nearly not to prove the doubters wrong. But even sort of, you know yourself, and everybody around Newry and most people in the Irish League know how good you are when you get a run of games, and that's key for any player. But to get up and to do it again in the Premiership with your hometown club, how much would that sort of mean to you?
Yeah, it would mean everything. That's, you know, when I met Darren, I told Darren, put a squad together, you know, what sort of squad he putting together. Like, no, you know, like, I didn't want to sign back here if you know, obviously budgets aren't massive in the Championship or that, but you need some sort of budget to get the better players to try and push for promotion. So one of the things I wanted to know who Darren was looking to sign and stuff like that.
Yeah, match your ambition, like.
Yeah, so I didn't want to come maybe finish mid-table here the first year and then try and get up the second year, you know. The first thing I said to Darren, win the league, like, that's what I want to do, win the league and go straight up. So once he told me the players that he was planning on signing, close to signing, then obviously knowing them, it was easy enough then to make my decision. As you can see already, I know it's still early stages, like, but it is a squad of competing in the Premiership, I believe. Probably the bottom half, because I believe the Premiership split and the top 6 are near all full time now, so part time can't compete with that. So you're sort of just too wee many leagues like. But there's no reason why that squad can't get promoted this year and add a few additions and go well next year in the Premiership.
So would you urge, over the next 6 or 7 months for Sparky to get the finger out and take us full time? The Gary Wilson showground.
Yeah, get us full time, it'll be great, and not have to work.
But I mean, in terms of I suppose, and I never like to ask a player, what's your aim, and every player's aim, every supporter's aim is you want to win every game and you want to get promoted and everybody wants success. It's not just quite as simple as that. I mean, looking at the start of the season, and you obviously four games at home, 4 wins. Saturday, looking forward to Saturday. Derryview, sort of one of your longest trips. We'll talk before you come on. One of the longest trips. A tight pitch, probably not a great surface, particularly depending on the weather. It's going to be different to, yes, every player out there has played on poor surfaces and different surfaces and away from home and things like that. But how different is it going to be? How important is it to recognise that this is going to be a different setup to what we've done the first 4 games, and we're going to need to sort of need to win a different way?
Yeah, well, I think we showed that already, the Welders game. Yeah. We didn't win it the way you would obviously like to win it, or we've won our previous games. Good football, maybe 3-0 clean sheets. We had to dig deep, we had a battle. So we show we can win dirty as well. But I was saying to Mark, people might be getting carried away. You just take one game at a time, and people are maybe looking the Ards game next week, Friday night. It'll be our toughest game. I've said to Mark, your toughest game is always your next game. You don't go above that. So whether we're away at Derby or at home to them, it's still our toughest game because it's the next game. Yeah. But yeah, playing up there before, I know what it's like. It's not great, the journey up and small changing rooms and all that, but if the attitude's right, then we'll go out and just try and get the 3 points. No reason why we can't. But yeah, trying to get it into the boys. I think Darren's trying to get it into them, not to be looking too far ahead or getting carried away with the first few results. I know it can be easy, especially for the younger type players coming through.
Yeah, I think this is easy. This is what it's like every week.
We're winning here every week, so I think just to try and keep the younger boys and even some of the senior players too, it's easy to happen to, especially Kearvan, try and keep players grounded. Doesn't matter what result you have, your toughest game is always your next game.
Well, you've got experience, you've played in many squads, but this squad that you're embedded in right now, what is your prediction for this season? What I'm going to put you on the spot here as well, and you can't give us the footballer's answer for this one. You can't say, we'll just take it one game. What's your prediction?
Win the league.
Yeah 100% confident on that. Yeah,
that's what I signed. Yeah, if I didn't think they'd won the league, I wouldn't sign.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, win the league.
Yeah, that's good. It's good getting a clean answer, isn't it? Not hiding behind anything.
Well, I'm not going to say relegation, you know what I mean? Win the league,
Yeah, win the league, and how many goals do you score? That's the question.
I'd like to be hitting 20s. Yeah. What about 6 at the minute?
You're a fifth the way there, really, aren't you?
6 at the minute. Well, keep going. I'm going to be in 20s by Christmas.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I love this. We'll come back to this coming up for Christmas and see.
We're going to flash this up after the new year.
And if I'm not at the 20s by Christmas, I'm not coming back on.
You said you were invited back on. I like it. He was back on already. We've hit gold here straight away. Well, last but not least, so we talk about the Welders game there. He obviously scored a last minute penalty, injury time penalty for us to win 3-2. Coolest man on the ground. People would have seen your celebration. Now everybody at the ground, or most people at the ground, certainly where I was right behind the goal line, knew exactly what it was about.
People that weren't at the match and seen the video didn't know what it was about. No, they were asking me.
So get it out there to the 4 people that'll be watching this podcast. Explain.
And all 4 of my family too.
He has 4 more listeners. We've already had before 4 years. So explain what it was about. It was very funny, and to be fair, Ben McCauley, the Welders keeper, was actually good about it.
I took it well, did a crack, he took it well.
But explain what it was.
Once the penalty was given, Engine was getting his armbands after diving into the pool. No, he didn't dive. It was a penalty.
He felt contact.
It was a penalty. It took a wee bit of time to get the ball back, and I was standing waiting about, and I seen the keeper coming out, and he was scuffing his boot up and trying to wreck the penalty spot. So whenever he went back into this net, I scored, and I ran over and just sort of scuffed a wee bit in front of him. But he laughed and had a bit of crack about it, So
he did, yeah. And to be fair, you went off and celebrated, off the fans, and there was a couple of the fans sort of right behind the goal where I was were slagging him off. Keeper didn't do much good. Probably had more choice language than that. And he turned around and he laughed. He goes, had to try something, like, you know what I mean? And he came up and shook hands with everybody sort of at the end of the game, and particularly given that was pretty much the last kick of the game, like, I thought it was pretty admirable for him to do that, like, so a shout out if we'll put it this way, if the Welders keepers watching our podcast, we've expanded our viewers.
Anybody outside the showgrounds are watching it, we're doing alright.
It's a very niche podcast, like, you know what I mean? But like, I think that's probably rounds us up.
Dingo, thanks very much for coming on and for being our first guest back.
Yeah, and this will be the benchmark now for see how many viewers we get. So if we progress from here, don't be disappointed that the first podcast has had less viewers than
the first one has to set the standard, so
that's it,
take me back at Christmas and we'll be through the roof.
And here you're the cheapest out of all the players for the appearance fees as well, so
we didn't pay that.